Hiya. I figured I would come on here and do a little chatty get ready with me today. So here I am. Um, I'm not doing anything special today, just doing the household cleaning and some errands. But I was thinking about the whole idea of like life before and life after. Specifically, it was when I was doing my Bible study and thinking about what and who I was pre really knowing God, knowing Jesus, and post. And I started thinking about what that means to me as a mom, especially like in the ways that we never know what to expect until we're in it. And even then, like, I'm still constantly surprised by what being a mom does to like the way we think, to the way we feel, and how much of our stuff that just comes up to the surface. All of my like unresolved beliefs about myself, all of my unresolved ideas about who I am as a person, all my random childhood beliefs coming to the surface, especially as a mom. I don't know what it's like for dads, but for me specifically, my self-doubt, my belief of being unworthy bubbled to the surface constantly, and it was showing up in all kinds of ways. And as I was doing my study this morning, it kind of reminded me of that, and I think that's really why I wanted to come on here and just talk about, what that journey has looked like, and a little bit about like some of the things that I didn't know to expect when it came to being a mom. And so I guess that's where we're at today. Today I want to share with you a little bit about, what my motherhood journey has looked like so far, and, where I'm at now and where I hope to be going. So for those of you who don't know, I'm Samantha. I am a life coach for moms, and I just kind of help them reconnect with, that who they are, who they want to be, and help them find that clarity on the direction that they want to go with their lives as they become moms. Because for me, I wasn't expecting so much of like those priority shifts and just the way that what I wanted before didn't make sense anymore. It didn't make sense for who I want to be as a mom. I didn't know that so much of my desires would change. I didn't know that so much of what I thought I wanted was just not coming from me. I was, looking at what the world was doing, looking at things on social media, looking at what the world was telling me about, like, oh, you should want to be, working, or you should want to be of value to society, or whatever, like just random things that were coming in. You should be wanting to go on vacations. Oh, it's going to be so easy to send your kids to daycare and, get your me time in. And none of that was a truth for me anymore. Like, first of all, I was reading a post on Reddit yesterday about a mom who, her baby was 3 weeks old, and her husband had planned this date night for them, and he had arranged it so that his sister could come in and take care of the baby. And he was upset, according to her post, but he was upset with her for everything that went into the planning, and how if she didn't go on this date with him, it would upset his sister, who he had arranged to watch the baby, and make her feel like she isn't trustworthy. And it got me thinking about those first like few months of being a mom and just that whole psyche adjustment. Like the idea of leaving my kid behind for at 3 weeks old, even for just a couple hours, like that would have been impossible for me. Especially like for me, I have a little bit of a different circumstance with my first kid. My first kid was literally in the NICU for 21 days. So she was in the NICU for 3 weeks. But with my second kid, he came out, we were home. But even still, like the idea of leaving him behind for any amount of time, one, like in that time frame, the eating schedule is so random, the sleeping schedule is so random, like I'm not getting any sleep, like taking care of the kiddo and the middle of the night feeding sessions and just being on for so many hours of the day, and there's just no schedule. So the idea of even like trying to plan something, like I'm just thinking about the idea of trying to plan something, like getting to the hospital to have the baby's checkups were a challenge with my second, because like I said, with him, we were home and like I had to get up to take him to the hospital to get his weight checks, his follow-up appointments, and all of that. But with my first, she was at the hospital already, so they got a lot of that done. But even still, like once she was released, I still had to take her back for just that like initial follow-up session with the doctors at our regular hospital. And just even doing that was such a challenge. And that was her coming with me. And so like the idea of like leaving the baby with anybody other than me in those, especially in those early days, like her and him, like him, I just, no, like, no, like everything about his birth was regular outside of the fact that like it happened so fast and I was not ready for any of that. And I didn't know what to expect because it was just such a different birth story. But like the idea of leaving the baby behind, like that was something I just wasn't prepared for. I was not ready for this idea of leaving my baby ever. Like, I did not know how challenging that would be, to wrap my head around, like, oh, people do this? Like, people let their babies hang out with other people and it doesn't have to be me. Like, I know I'm not the only person out there, but like that was challenging for me. It's still challenging for me. Even to this day, like I would just rather be the person that my kids are with. Like, part of that is all of the postpartum anxiety that came with my second. With my first, I had severe postpartum depression. With my second, I had severe postpartum anxiety. All of that's kind of balanced out now. I feel like I'm sure I've mentioned it several times before, but if I haven't, like I wasn't prepared for how long that postpartum journey would be in terms of like the hormones balancing out, in terms of not feeling like I'm on the verge of going cuckoo bananas. So that was something I wasn't prepared for. And so from this woman's post, it just really reminded me a lot of what I was experiencing with that. Like my husband wasn't planning date nights, but like, I think he also understood not to, especially after our first, like the firstborn, our whole birth story with her was just so unexpected, so out of the norm. Although I don't think it is now that I know, again, more of what I know now. There are so many complications that happen during giving birth, especially like when you're an older mom like I was. I was 37 when my first was born. And so I waited a little while, and just adds to the complications of giving birth is being an older mom. But, like there are so many things that I want to see be better when it comes to the whole giving birth process. But yeah, like the idea of going and leaving my child for any amount of time, especially in those first few months, like, no, I want to be around my child all the time. As exhausting as it is, like, I would prefer, for me, and like, I know there are women out there who have a very different experience. And it's, it's all part of our own journeys. But for me, like, the idea of leaving my kid behind for any amount of time was a challenge. And then on top of that, like, as exhausted as I was, the only thing I really wanted when I was so early postpartum was just somebody to talk to, like, that was somewhere on the journey with me. And that was like one of the biggest things that I wish I had seen more of. And then, COVID hit, but that's long gone, thank goodness, in terms of like the being locked in our houses bit. But like the idea of leaving my kid behind was just impossible. And seeing this woman's post on Reddit, it's easier to do it in the camera actually. Seeing this woman's post on Reddit just brought up so much of my memory about this, but from a very, very different place, because I'm not processing a lot of what was happening for me. And so, like, there are so many things that I wish I had known pre having kids. And it's something I think I want to do a video on in the future. So if that's something that any of you would want to see, give this video a thumbs up, give me a comment, whatever, however that works. But the concept of like things I wish I had known before having kids, things I wish I had known about the birth process, things I wish I had known about what it's like to become a mom, the mental challenges, even understanding what postpartum anxiety looks like that was such a challenge for me. Cause like, I know I've said this to friends of mine before, but I don't know if I've said it on here, but like the way the care cycle goes, once we have the baby, the mom is put on the back burner. 1000%. In my circumstances, at least, and I'm from the women I've talked to, like, it was very much their circumstances as well. It's like, the baby's been born, the baby's out of the mom, you're good, let's focus on the baby, which I love that they want to focus on the baby, but I wish I had been given a little more care, because so much of what I experienced would have been easier, better, smoother if they had given me any kind of understanding of what postpartum actually looks like. Like, I had no idea postpartum anxiety was a thing. I knew about postpartum depression, but during my second postpartum journey, I had so much anxiety. I still have patterns of that anxiety showing up on the regular in my body, but I understand it now. And like I said, like 3 years in to being postpartum, the hormones have balanced out. So it's not as noticeable or as prevalent or as dominant as it was before. But let me get this pumped up. But yeah, like I was so neglected postpartum by the medics and the medical portion of it. They gave me this questionnaire that basically just asks if I want to harm myself permanently. I think that's an okay way to say it on here, but it was just basically asking, oh, have you felt depressed over the past few days? Yeah, I felt depressed. I mean, it's hard being a mom sometimes, and it's lonely. And, like, yes, it's hard. And then it, yeah, basically is asking, do you want to hurt your baby? Do you want to hurt yourself? And it, like, no, I don't want either of those things. But the first question of like, have you been feeling sad since having the baby? Yeah, I've felt sad. I felt lonely. I've cried a lot. But like, it's just that question. If I answer it with just the yes that it was asking, but I don't want to hurt myself, I don't want to hurt my baby, they were fine with it. And so like, that was one of the most challenging sides of my birthing process, my postpartum journey, was just that if that questionnaire had been like 5 more questions that actually asked what I was experiencing, they could have helped me so much more deeply with that postpartum journey. And again, it didn't even reference anything about postpartum anxiety. And part of that, like, made so much of my second postpartum journey that much more challenging, because like, I didn't know what anxiety was. I knew what worrying was, but I had no idea what anxiety was. And so like, as I look back on that chapter of my postpartum journey, I built so much shame up in myself because of the decisions I made about our life as a family that have turned out beautifully. Like, don't get me wrong, like, it's turned out beautifully, but some of the things that was like showing up, and the way I was processing it, and the way I was thinking, and I can look back and I can see, and I love that person so deeply, who I was, from a place of compassion. I can look back and I can feel that compassion for that person who was experiencing all of that anxiety and all of that pressure coming from that anxiety. But I wish I hadn't felt like I had to do it alone, because of what the medical industry was ignoring, because of what the medical industry doesn't know to think about, or doesn't realize they need to think about. And that was something that I truly wish had been shared with me prior to becoming postpartum, prior to just going through that chapter alone. I know I wasn't physically alone all the time, but I felt alone. And I know there are so many moms out there that feel that way too. And that's, one of the things I want to shift with this channel and with the coaching that I do, is that you're not alone. Even in those moments that you feel like you're alone, there are so many women who are experiencing so much of what you are feeling. And I guess that's what I want to leave today with, is that even when you do feel tired and worn out, and like your brain just does not work right, just know that that's normal. Like, it's not normal, but it is. It is so normal. And there's nothing wrong with you. It's just, you need that person, that somebody that you can look to, that you can lean on, to help you see that what you're experiencing, it's okay, and it's going to be okay. It feels like the end of the world, but I promise it's not. So that's my chatty get ready with me. I have to get moving through my day, but it was very cathartic for me to share it this way. I hope that it is helpful to somebody. And, if it feels like you're on that part of your journey, I have a coffee chat. We just get on a call for 30 minutes and just talk. There's no sales, there's nothing. And then I have other options if you do decide you want to work with me. They're down in the description box as well. But that's all I have for you today. I love you all. Bye.